Well, there's many. A female parent, someone that has the characteristics of a mother, anyone who creates, nurtures, or protects someone else. And it's a name given to a certain rank of people in the convent, like the head of a religious community, a mother superior. And of course, in our day and age, we're all called on to be mother, father, carer, and mentor. But I feel a mentor is a different role again. The motherly aspect, I believe, is much higher calling than a mentor, which I'll get to soon. So today we honour our mothers. And I was going to have a few people mention a little bit about their mothers, but it didn't work out. We've done it before in the past. And, you know, I realise sometimes not all of us have had a good relationship with our mother. It's what a calling it is to have that thrust upon someone to take on this high role. So as we honour Mother's Day, let's look at the background of the actual day. Modern Mother's Day was trademarked, of all things, in the US in 1912 by a Sunday school teacher called Anna Jarvis, and was officially set aside by President Wilson in 1914. And it was called a day of sober reflection on one's mother. Well, by 1921, commercialism of the holiday became, according to Anna Jarvis, an outrage. Why? Well, she campaigned vigorously because she thought it had become too impersonal, and all she wanted was for people to write a gentle little letter to their mum expressing their affection. But no, it became a time for gifts, a time for cards, and of course the florists cashed in, didn't they? And this was an outrage because carnations became the flavour. A red one if your mother was living, and a white one if your father had passed on. So if she could see what we do today for Mother's Day, I think she'd be turning in her grave. It's been amazing to see how commercialised it has become, but it's got its blessings as well. But she spent the rest of her life fighting what she saw as an abuse of the celebration. I believe she was also in the temperance union movement as well, so that sort of links in with that. She was against the brass commercialism, and she wished she had never suggested this event. Now, we've all heard of famous mothers, apart from our own mother. My mother, as you may have known, I may have said this before, so I'll say it again. My mother was a Glaswegian, and you know, very, very, very Glaswegian. And she had her little sayings. And don't all mothers have their little sayings they say at certain times? And my mother, as she got older, well, not older, but she was 42 when she passed, but she used to say, when she turned 30, my face, I don't mind it because I'm behind it. And you know, that stuck with me all these years, and a couple of other little Glaswegian sayings. And it sounds better when you hear the Scottish accent that goes with it. The term mother is also used for some iconic figures. We have Mother Teresa. Some of you may be familiar with Mother Mira. And from childhood, people remember Mother Goose and Mother Hubbard. Probably not so much now. And of course, I dare not go without mentioning that Myrtle Fillmore is called the Mother of Unity. And that's a big one. And if you look at the history of unity, you'll see how her and Charles really worked together with what they had to work with at the time. And it's interesting how unity used Christianity to bring in these universal spiritual principles. And I believe it's a vital step on the way to the upliftment of consciousness. Diane mentioned Mother Mary earlier, and in the Roman Catholic tradition, of course, some see Mother Mary as a symbol of Mother of God. Now, that's a big title, and that was put together by a group of gentlemen at the Council of Ephesus in 431. They decided that Mother Mary was the Mother of God. Well, some see Mother Mary as a symbol for the divine feminine in us, if we need a symbol at all. I do. Symbols have been very, very valuable to me over my journey. And I've mentioned before also that quite often it's good to have a candle or a statue of some person, some iconic person, just to help us bring in that sense of reverence. And sometimes when you're in the city, I don't know if any of you have been there, when it was in its heyday, I think it was St. Francis's Cathedral there in the middle of the city. You could pop in there at any time and just get a moment of peace. You might hear the trams going past, but somehow it was like they were in another world. I used to love that, and quite often the organist was playing in there as well. So that helped put balance into my day. Now we hear of the Immaculate Conception. But regardless of the situation around the birth of Jesus, in Matthew 13, 55 and 56, and Mark 6, verse 3, we read that Mary and Joseph were the biological parents to 6 other children: James, Joseph, Simon, Judas, and 2 daughters. One was called Salome, and the other one's name is not recorded. And we read about the whole family traveling to Jerusalem. Jesus was 12 at the time, and his parents lost track of him, eventually finding him in the temple talking to the priests and rabbis. When his parents found him, they were very anguished, and they said to him, "Where have you been? What have you done?" And he answered, saying, "How is it you sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business?" Now, if you look at that in a childhood remark, I don't think you'd get off very lightly if I said that to my parents. But of course, there is a spiritual meaning behind this, a metaphysical meaning. And interestingly enough, this is the last time we hear of Joseph in the Bible. And also it's the last time we hear of Jesus until the age of 30. Now, we don't know what he was up to for sure, but there's all sorts of theories. Some say he was in India, in Tibet, and other places as well. That could quite possibly be, because when you look at a map of the Great Silk Road, it cuts right through it. So it's just a matter of hopping on a camel or an elephant and going off and, seeking your fortune. It's quite possible that he could have done anything like that. But when he commenced his ministry at the age of 30, his mother was with him. She was also there at the end. And in the last agonizing moments in Matthew 12, 46 to 50, one of the disciples said to him, "Behold thy mother and thy brethren." But he answered and said, "Who is my mother and who is my brethren?" That might sound a bit callous, but no, there's a meaning behind this too. He stretched his hand forward towards his disciples and said, "Behold my mother and my brethren. For he shall do the will of my Father in heaven, the same as my brother, sister, and mother." In the revealing word, we read of the universal family. If God, Spirit, universal, and call it what we want, whatever you're comfortable with, if that created us, then we are all, men, women, everyone, brothers and sisters, all together in this one great universe. The term "in my Father's house" is used to describe that we are one in spirit, all individualized expressions, but at our present level, awareness of it. And the term father, which was used in that patriarchal society, would include father, mother. And in his book, The Great Incarnation, Unity minister and writer Ernest Wilson writes that in our spiritual unfoldment, we have the chance to become mother, father, saint, sinner. Steps on the way until we reach that point where we are expressing more fully from the Christ consciousness. As Ernest Holmes calls it, it's established faith. And I say it again, nothing will knock us off our perch. We're on that rock of Christ. And another one from Revelations, chapter 3, verse 12. To them that overcometh, I will make a pillar in the temple of God, and they shall go no more out. Now, I know time is moving on, but I will bring this page forward. We are all spiritual beings having a physical experience in this mystery school of Mother Earth. And in Unity New Thought, we see our souls as body, ego, soul, and spirit. Usually we would have said body, mind, and spirit, but since I've been teaching from this book by Ellen Davenport, Unity's 5 Principles, it's completely updated, and I do like how she's put the 4 categories there. Of course, body, here it is. It's essentially our spacesuit, which allows us to survive in this Earth environment, its ups and downs, highs and lows. The ego, which in its healthy state gives us the focus and confidence to function in the human world. We know what happens when it gets out of control, as we realize when Jesus came back from those 30 years ready to start his ministry, he was challenged. His ego, which is called the devil in the Bible, his ego challenged him, as it challenges us many times. But we have to stand forth in consciousness and say, get behind me. Now, the soul is everything that's going on in our mind. It's what we've built up while we're here. It's our thoughts, our beliefs, and our attitudes. Now, soul dictates how we live our life. Let's look around. How is our life? We created it. And our soul changes as our consciousness changes. Spirit is our ever-perfect self, which is part of the Great Spirit, just as every drop of water has the same substance as a lake or an ocean, so does everyone's spirit. So as our biological mother gave birth to our physical body, so too we give birth to our spiritual body. This is the Immaculate Conception. We must be born again. This is the birth of the Christ conscious in us. There's nowhere else for us to go. We heard in Diane's presentation earlier about the cocoon and the caterpillar and the butterfly. This is the conscious awakening of who we really are in spirit. and to realize our destiny of that long journey of the soul throughout eternity. So to sum up, St. Paul, we know this verse, but I love it so much. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 44, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Now, we can become aware of this part of ourselves by using the spiritual tools we teach here at Unity. We learn what is called ancient wisdom, new thought. Some have thought of this as being a secret or withheld from the masses. But in truth, it will only reveal itself to us when we're ready. We might think we know the theory of it, but the practice and the taking on of this will come to us with life's experience. And as we use our meditation and prayer and contemplation tools that we teach. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So when we're ready, we get together and live as one according to universal spiritual law. And we learn unconditional love. And that is one of the main qualities needed for parents, mother and father, for all of us. And in these responsibilities of these roles are many sacrifices to be made. Sacrifice comes from the word sacred. And what a sacred calling it is for those who choose to be a mother in any capacity, this time around on planet Earth. So be it. Amen. Thank you.